Welcome everyone to Matt Connarton Unleashed, the live edition this Wednesday. What is it? January 4th. January 4th. The time gets away from me. Welcome. This is the first time doing this on TV here at QCEnews.com. And
welcome to the station.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we are broadcasting tonight from 1000 Elm Street here in downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Not at the usual Essence of Styling Souls, our usual stomping grounds. That's up the street. But doing this in front of TV cameras tonight, and I am flanked by, Glenn R.J. Willett, the owner of QCEnews.com and the QCEnews.com channel on IPMNation.com, and of course Chris Rose.
Hi, everybody.
Host of Verbal E. We won't say the full name of the show because Glenn wants to keep this family friendly.
Right.
So
Rhymes with blood ejaculation.
Yes.
That's it.
Absolutely. So, listen, guys, I want to start out talking tonight about the Iowa caucus, which was last night. And the thing that I really want to stress, and I want everyone to understand is, before we get into some of the details, is the number 8. I want everyone to remember the number 8 anytime that you feel like your vote doesn't count. If you ever get into that mode of thinking where you kind of want to vote, you're thinking about voting, but then you get like melancholy about it and say, well, you know what, my vote doesn't count, so I'm not even going to bother. I want you to remember the number 8. And the reason I say this is, if you don't already know, last night, 8 votes separated the guy who came in first, Mitt Romney, from the guy who came in second, Rick Santorum. 8 votes in the Iowa caucus last night. So if you feel like your vote doesn't count, and if you kind of rationalize, well, I don't want to bother to vote, because what's the point? Just remember that number 8, because that's what separated Rick Santorum and Mitt Romney last night in the Iowa caucus. And I've never seen anything like that in my lifetime that I can remember of, a vote that close, but it actually can happen.
That's right.
So, and I kind of feel like some people are, I don't want to say burying the lead, but I don't hear. It's funny, when listening to the media talk about it today, obviously everyone's focusing on the ultimate result. Romney won, Santorum did better than anyone imagined would, even a week ago. And everyone's now focused on, well, what happens next in New Hampshire. But I don't hear a lot of people talking about how miraculous it is. I mean, I'm just blown away that it was actually that close.
Yeah.
I was watching, I think AP finally announced a winner last night around 3 a.m.
Yeah.
It was pretty late. And
At 12:30, they both made their acceptance speeches around 12:30.
Right, yeah. And Santorum, I didn't see the Santorum speech. Apparently it was quite good.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember at 2:30 a.m. I'm watching MSNBC, and they kept updating where we are, and at that there was a point where it was 4 votes between them.
Yeah.
And I think they were even. They were both even at 25%, and ultimately Mitt Romney came out on top. But I'll tell you, it was also a big victory for Rick Santorum, even though he didn't win.
It was.
To be only 8 votes away from
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's huge. Because, we've been in this cycle where everyone gets a turn as the front runner.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually Donald Trump at one point months ago, and then he decided not to run, but he was the front runner in a lot of polls.
That's right.
And Romney was, of course, a front runner. Gingrich there for a short time was a front runner. Herman Cain was a front runner.
Bachmann had it.
Yeah, Michelle Bachmann.
After the straw poll, which doesn't.
It's funny.
Right.
She won the straw poll in August, number 1 in her state, and then she lost the lowest vote.
Lowest vote of those top
Yeah.
6.
And now she's gone.
Yes.
And so is he.
And Cain? Yeah, well.
No. Her husband.
Oh, her husband. Well, Marcus Bachmann, let's be honest, is flaming gay.
Hey!
But
Sorry. Marcus Bachmann.
now, but you know what's interesting too about Rick Santorum's performances. Now, I don't like him. He's much too conservative for me, and I think he has a very serious problem with gay people.
Very.
So I'm not gay myself, but on behalf of those I know who are, and I'll be curious to hear what you guys think about Santorum in a minute, but I want to say, I putting that aside for a moment, so I don't like Santorum, but I have to give him credit for, he really worked it in Iowa. He went to every county in the state, and he went out and did the shoe leather politicking, the retail politics, going out, shaking hands, meeting people. He really worked it. And a couple of months, not a couple of months ago, I have a limited concept of time, but a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I brought up a question on the show, and Chris, you were there that night. I raised the question, and this was when Newt Gingrich had become the front runner. Newt Gingrich, who had virtually no campaign apparatus, no campaign organization, was pretty much doing it all using the media, through the media, and using his debate performance to prop him up. But no real campaign organization on the ground anywhere. I brought up the question, is it possible that we've entered a new phase in American politics where you can actually campaign basically on TV, on the radio, using the power of social media and the internet, and you can actually run a successful campaign that way and not do it the old-fashioned way by having that campaign apparatus, having boots on the ground, as they say, and doing the retail politicking, which a guy like Newt Gingrich probably hates doing anyway. But he became the front runner, avoiding all that and doing it this new way.
Yeah, but you got to ask yourself how he became the front runner. Every week it was a different front runner, and as soon as Herman Cain left, the votes went to him.
Right. Yeah, he became the next guy in line.
Like it's your turn.
And Cain had done it the same way, too.
Yes.
Without any real campaign apparatus or staff. He had that freak Mark Bloch in the smoking video.
Yeah.
And that was about it. So I raised the question, is it possible? Have we entered a new era where someone can actually win the nomination without going out and doing the old-fashioned politicking? But Rick Santorum may have proven last night that my theory that perhaps we had entered a new era in American politics is not true, because he did it the old-fashioned way, and he went from being a guy nobody took seriously to almost winning the Iowa caucus.
Right.
Well, Santorum actually did 237 town meetings in Iowa.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And there's 99 precincts, so
Yes.
he's been there more than once.
Absolutely.
Precinct.
So he worked hard. But now, so I've given him his due. I'll give the devil his due in that regard. But what do you guys think? I mean, Chris, you must have some thoughts on Santorum. Rick Santorum.
Oh.
I'm speaking figuratively. I don't know that he's actually cloven-hooved. But, and in some ways, he actually seems like a genuine guy. He seems like he'd be a nice guy if you met him. I don't know. I mean, Gary Hopper likes him, my co-host on Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. He endorsed Santorum. But, I mean, he seems to, part of the problem I have with him is, if you're going to be president, you have to represent all the people. You have to be the president of the entire United States. And I think Rick Santorum has a real problem with gay people. I think it goes beyond just sort of a base level homophobia that a lot of conservatives have. I think he really doesn't like gay people.
I believe the term you're looking for is overcompensation.
Really? So you think he's secretly gay?
Yes.
Oh, so that's his wife.
Tell that to Marcus Bachman.
Right.
I mean,
well, Marcus Bachman,
nothing in this
Yeah,
world
but
is unheard.
Marcus Bachman is
Like-
so flamboyant compared to him.
The discussion that we had on Matt Connarton Unleashed a few weeks ago, where he brought up the social media, that's not unheard of. Like before, maybe even just before Barack Obama's campaign, we'll say about 2004, Kerry and W. There was that at that time was probably unheard of. 2008, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing Obama
Right.
and McCain.
Right.
Yeah.
These days, it's now every candidate has a ring, because YouTube you can broadcast anything. Ustream, you can broadcast live.
Yeah.
So nothing is unheard of. So for me to insinuate or possibly infer that Rick Santorum is a homosexual and is clearly masking that by his hatred of others and their lifestyle, I don't think is too far-fetced.
Wow.
I know I make jokes about it on Verbal E and on Roulette at Large, but really there's not a whole lot you can trust on the internet, but there's a lot of information out there to support that. Infer or imply? Implication. I'll say implication.
Yeah,
on this one,
yeah.
Yes. So I'm certainly not going to vote for the man.
Right.
I certainly think Willard is going to be the front runner.
Yes.
And I'm not going to call him Mitt. It's Willard.
That is his real name.
Willard Romney.
Willard Romney, yes.
So I don't want to put too much effort into.
How's it written on the ballot?
Oh, I think on the ballot it just says Mitt Romney.
I think it is Mitt.
It doesn't have Willard in abbreviation time.
I don't think so.
Where is Mitt?
I don't
There
think
we
so.
go.
We're
It's
looking
Mitt
at
Romney.
the
So-
Republican ballot for the
Oh,
primary.
he's from
With-
Belmont, Mass.
Yes.
Yes.
With that said, I'm not giving him too much attention.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Let alone credibility.
the past
Right.
couple of days with all the news broadcasts interviewing him and everything, let him do that because he's not going to be the front runner. So
Right. Well, he will not win in New Hampshire. Romney clearly will win New Hampshire.
Yes.
We were talking a little bit earlier about predictions, Glenn, and you were saying you think Romney will win, and then Ron Paul potentially
Yeah, well,
second.
this morning, the new polls that took this morning after the primary of Iowa, Romney jumped to 47. Actually, he stayed at 47 from the day before. And Ron Paul stayed at 17, 18. He hasn't changed. The only one that changed, and the others didn't change either, the only one that changed was Rick Santorum. He went from 5% to 10. He doubled. But he has to double a lot to get to 47%.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And he doesn't. His campaign doesn't have a lot of money, so he hasn't been able to really lay the groundwork.
But he'll
in New
get a lot
Hampshire.
more money now that he came in second, though.
Right.
That's how it works.
But probably not. One thing I've been hearing is that he may do very well in South Carolina.
I tend to agree with
yes.
that.
The same reason why he did so well in Iowa.
Right. Social conservatives will turn out for him.
And your Christian base
Right.
in South Carolina.
And in the South,
because-
there's a lot of them there. Yeah.
Right. And they distrust Romney because Romney, it doesn't seem to be a social conservative, but who really knows? He says whatever he needs to say in front of whatever group he's speaking in front of to win their favor. But also, will Southern Christian conservatives? This question has not been fully answered, and we didn't really get an answer in 2008, really, in my opinion. Will Southern Christian conservatives vote for a Mormon?
Well, they kind of did yesterday.
Well, not Southern.
Iowa.
There may be a difference, though, between
Yeah,
Southern
well,
Christian
the-
conservatives and Iowan Christian
Yeah,
conservatives.
the evangelists in Iowa, in the Midwest, especially in Iowa, are very strong. That's who won last night. So
Yeah.
That's where Santorum got all his votes from.
Right, right,
That's where his base is.
right.
Now, do you think those who are leading the Anyone But Mitt campaign, do you think that's based on a religion or the man himself, the man who ran Bain Capital, took companies, kind of just shelled them out, sent them overseas so that good Americans lost their jobs because of Mitt Romney?
Yeah, I
Is
think-
it his policies or is it the religion that's
It's neither.
drawing this?
I think what it is finally there's, like I said, for the last few months, the GOP voters are so divided. They keep having a brand new candidate on top every single week almost.
Right.
So what it is they're finally saying, as a Republican voter, who can actually beat Obama?
Right.
Well, Mitt Romney has always had the higher numbers, so he's the one that would be best.
He's
So now they
electable.
have to ask themselves, can we live with a Mitt Romney in the White House, even though he's a Mormon and even though he's got policies like you just stated? And the answer seems to be, at least yesterday, the answer was yes.
Right. I think the distrust for him, I don't think it lies necessarily, well, see, I think a lot of the distrust, I think a lot of these people are uncomfortable with the Mormonism. But I think there's a deep distrust in, as I mentioned before, the flip-flops and, he was a very liberal, or Republicans don't like the word liberal attached to them, but we'll say a very moderate Republican.
That's exactly what
as
Mitt
governor
Romney
of
is calling him.
Massachusetts. Right, and now he's got a tack to the right, and he literally. It's one thing, I try to give some people the benefit of the doubt. It's one thing if over the course of your life, your policies, your positions on certain things change because as you grow, as you evolve as a person, as you meet different types of people, as you absorb and assimilate different information. Naturally, if you never change your mind about anything, then something's wrong. Then you're not learning. Then you're not growing. So some of that is normal, but so I'm hesitant to jump on someone as being a flip flopper just because they change their mind on certain things. But Romney flips on everything, man, and he will. And I mean, this guy will say one thing to one group of people at one speech, and then 5 minutes later tell somebody outside the opposite. And
What is he, a please-all?
I've never seen anyone as blatant about it as Mitt Romney.
No. You can't compare John Kerry's flip-flopping
Oh, no,
from
no.
2004
In
with
fact, they were
what
saying that
Mitt
today.
Romney's
Right.
doing.
But you also have to understand that at least the Mormon part is no different than in 1962 when John F. Kennedy said, "You can't be elected, you're a Catholic."
Mhm.
I thought we had gone beyond that, but then again, I guess we haven't, have we? That's
No.
one thing.
No.
Number two is, Gingrich said it last night, before the campaign was even over, and that was that Mitt Romney, when you get to know Mitt Romney, you're going to find out that he's not conservative, he's a moderate.
Right.
And where is there a real conservative candidate that's ever come out of Massachusetts? It's a liberal state.
Right.
Wow. But there are Republicans there.
But you have to be a moderate to survive as a Republican in New Hampshire.
Obviously.
I remember when Bill Weld. You guys remember Bill
Yes.
Weld?
Bill Weld.
He was another moderate.
When he was governor of Massachusetts, I remember thinking this guy is the most liberal Republican I've ever seen in my life. He could just as easily pass for a conservative Democrat and a barely conservative Democrat at that. But I think, Romney is electable in the general election. So if Republicans are willing to kind of hold their nose and go with Romney, as they did in Iowa, if they will do that, and they will definitely do that in New Hampshire, if they are willing to do that in the South, Romney could wrap this up quick. He won Iowa, he'll win New Hampshire. If he wins South Carolina
And Florida,
and Florida,
all in 1 month.
and I think Florida will go for Romney, because I don't think,
More so than South Carolina.
yeah,
I think, yeah.
I think so. I almost don't think of Florida as being part of the South. Florida's like its own weird.
Well, it's part of the South. though.
It's part of the
It
South.
is
but there
geographically,
is-
but it's like
there's a lot of people who've moved there.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
A lot
All
of
over the
New
world.
Englanders
From
in
all
New
over New
York,
right.
England or
down to
even
Florida.
other places. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's kind of
the
its
same
own.
thing as Arizona, but
It's like its own world.
it's not. It's even worse in Arizona. Florida is really a distinctive.
Yeah.
Do you think it helps that at just about 3 o'clock today, John McCain came out and endorsed Mitt Romney?
Actually, didn't he do it at 12:30 when he spoke at Central High School?
He may have. It was
That's
announced
what
on CNN
yeah.
about 3 o'clock.
Yeah, he
today.
did it at 12:30 this morning.
I don't think it helps.
Okay.
I don't think it hurts or helps. I think it's a
Well,
non-issue.
But we talked earlier. You got to remember that as of 2 days ago, he was undecided if he should endorse Mitt or Santorum.
Right.
And what happened is something was said in the campaign of Santorum a couple of days ago, and it rubbed him the wrong way. And when Mitt won by 8 votes last night, he made the phone call to Mitt and say, "I'm going to endorse you. When can I do it? Tomorrow is fine."
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he planned a 12:30 event at Central High School, just like that. There were flyers all over the ground this morning.
Right. I think an endorsement from a former nominee who lost the general election.
It's not as important as it used to be.
Exactly. And McCain damaged himself so much in 2008.
You think so?
I think so. If you think about the legacy of John McCain, there was a time when John McCain was literally the most popular politician in the United States.
Yes.
Yes.
He really was. He was loved because he was someone who was not afraid to stand up to his own party.
Well, she's a legend.
A war hero.
Yeah.
And he was not afraid to disagree with his own party when he. So Democrats were comfortable with him, independents were comfortable with him, but because of his war hero status, Republicans also still respected him as much as they may have hated it when he took the line against his own party and showed himself to be a very moderate Republican.
But you know where he learned that from? He learned when he first ran he ran for president twice.
Yes.
When he first ran for president, he was like an independent Republican.
Yes.
And the party hated him for him. And I think when he ran the second time, he remembered that. If I'm not a
Yep.
true conservative, they're not going to get me.
He tacked right.
And he bought himself into the party. And that's why I keep telling people, let's elect a president, not a party.
Right. I agree.
Plus, let's face it, his pick for candidate for vice president,
Yes.
though popular at the beginning, and she was, Sarah Palin,
And still is,
conservatives loved her. Yes,
Yeah,
and
still
she's
is.
still a Fox contributor.
That's right.
Right.
So she's
Tea
still
Party.
in the conservative
Oh, yeah.
eye. But as, I guess, the liberal media continued on checking into her history and interviewing her today, began to realize this is not the sharpest tool in the box.
Right.
What has what has the great John McCain done at this point?
Right, exactly. It
Oh, really?
showed
Is that how they analyze it?
such a lack of judgment on his part, and we heard all sorts of stories about how the McCain campaign did not properly vet her to figure out, is she really up to this?
That's true.
And then, so I think so
It
much.
wasn't his choice. It was really the party, I really think.
You think so? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember how angry he was when he gave her $1,500 to go out and get clothes, and she spent $15. I remember how angry that issue came, and he was so mad at her, like, how dare you, you know? And I always thought he did play it right, like, you know, she's my running mate, but I really think that it's the conservative in the Republican Party that said you're going to choose a woman. Because the Democrats were going to do that, and then Hillary was running. So they
Right.
needed this play that we don't have to be a racist either. We can have a woman in there.
Right. Oh, I agree.
Well,
I agree. That was the game they were
it's a
playing.
game.
I do
think
have
so.
my opinion about the race issue right now. The fact that there was such a groundswell for Barack in 2008 that Democrats rallied around him as soon as Hillary left the race.
Yeah.
And because I was on Hillary's side, and then she left,
I
then
would've
there was a
preferred her.
groundswell, and Oprah came out, and then all these celebrities
Right.
came out.
Yeah.
2008, yes we can. Man was elected into office. Within the first year, the veil of racism within the Conservative Party and the
Started,
Tea Party
yeah.
conservatives just started coming out.
But you're not surprised at that, are you?
And I think they are so happy that his Yes We Can policies, everything that he promised, has not all of them come to fruition as of 2012. Because
Yeah.
they can now say, oh, you elected a black president.
Right.
Now the same people are going to start, these same conservatives are going to start rallying around Mitt.
Yeah.
As soon as
Yeah.
he's the candidate, announced as the front runner,
They're not
they'll
gonna have
rally
a
around
choice.
that. But these same people who it's their party's leader, I think the religionism will come out and they'll start saying, well, what do you expect from a Mormon? He doesn't know what he's supposed to be doing.
Right.
Yeah. It's amazing to me
We
that
don't learn,
conservatives,
do we?
and you know, there are liberals, there are
Oh, yeah.
racist liberals.
Oh, yeah.
Not all. I'm not a racist. I like to think I'm liberal, but there are liberals out there too that
Oh, yeah.
don't like the fact that
Sure.
we have a half black president. But it just amazes me that the right will take pride in the fact that our black president is losing popularity, that unemployment is not up.
Yeah.
Because it's a black man who's screwing up, and then they'll also be the ones who probably
But remember-
be using the religion aspect as
Yes.
well.
Right.
Remember that was created, the recession was created under the Bush administration.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Let's not forget that.
Let's go fight 2 wars and cut taxes.
And
Well,
remember-
and even conservative economists
Oh,
at,
yeah.
at the time were saying, "Oh, wait a
We're spending
minute."
too much, Bush.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not very conservative. You know, you got to remember that they claim that by June of next year we'll be roughly $16.5 million in debt. $1 trillion in debt.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
did it go
yeah,
down?
Yeah.
Well, of the 16.5 trillion, it's 16.7 to be exact. Of the 16.7 trillion by the end of next June, 10.7 came in under the Bush administration. But they seem to blame it all on the president today. I said, you know, he deserved the 6 million, but the 10.7 million, let's not forget, it came under the Bush administration.
Right.
So to me, it has nothing to do with a party. It doesn't matter who's president.
Right.
They're not totally in control.
Oh, and that's one of the things I saw in the Union Leader, one of the cartoons. I think it might be a syndicated cartoon in the Union Leader, so it was probably came out of D.C. Was all of these things about the perfect president, President Barack Obama, and all these things.
There are no perfect
He was
presidents.
one of the first presidents to lower our rating. Really?
What
it
rating?
was Barack, the credit rating.
Our credit
Oh,
rating.
yeah.
Yeah, we're going from AAA to AA. So it was his fault that he didn't raise the debt ceiling
Right.
because he didn't want to raise the debt ceiling.
But it's the
Well,
Congress that wouldn't
fault.
vote for it to the very last day.
Right. We and I talked about this earlier on the show you did earlier,
Yes.
where when during that whole debt ceiling debacle, it was the first time in my life where I was truly terrified for the future of our country, because I've always felt no matter what we go through, whether it's a terrible recession or 9/11 or whatever happens, whatever awful things happen, this country is strong enough to get through anything, and we will get through anything. But with the debt ceiling, and a lot of people don't realize this, if we hadn't raised the debt ceiling, and you Tea Party Republicans who are so against raising the debt ceiling, maybe I should talk very slow so you'll understand this, but if we had not raised the debt ceiling and actually begun to default on our debt, on our national debt, it would have caused, it would have been cataclysmic is the word I was trying to get out, for our economy. I mean, it would have been, forget the Great Recession, it would have been another Great Depression. It would have been brutal. And every one of these people, both liberal Democrats and Tea Party Republicans who voted against raising the debt ceiling because they didn't want to compromise, because we become so polarized and there's no moderates left, so no one wants to compromise on anything. Every single one of them who voted against raising the debt ceiling voted in favor of destroying the United States economy, and they are all guilty of treason.
You got to remember, Matt, that under the Bush administration, he too rose the debt ceiling.
Oh yeah,
He didn't have a choice.
And Reagan did, and Clinton did. It's
That's
a
right.
normal
It's-
thing.
it's-
But all of a sudden, these Tea Party Republicans wanted to play chicken with our economy.
Well, I don't think it's just the Tea Party. I mean, it's a combination of the Tea Party and the conservative Republicans.
Well, but here's the
They
thing.
are in control, so to speak, because they had the new Congress. But some of these
Yeah.
conservative Republicans went along with it, so you can't just blame just on the Tea Party.
Well, but
They
I
started it.
right, true, and I agree. But the Tea Party, it's the Tea Party's influence, I think, that got us to that point. Because had the Tea Partiers not been in there, and Eric Cantor, who basically got in bed with the Tea Party, I don't think that this would have been the issue that it was. I actually kind of felt badly for John Boehner at one point, because I felt like he was trying to be the adult in the room, and then and you know, and he understood that we needed to raise the debt ceiling like we always do. It's a normal thing.
But he's
And-
not in command.
Right, and he's got Eric Cantor and the rest of these Tea Partiers dragging him down, not letting him make a deal with Obama. And man, I'll tell you what, they made a deal at the last minute, but I really thought we were about to go over the cliff.
And we lost the AAA credit rating,
Right.
albeit for a few days, but we lost it.
Right, and then of course the Republicans
They
turn
couldn't
around and
it on
blame
themselves.
Obama.
Yeah, they couldn't blame it on themselves.
Right, they blame everything on Obama. And this is a point that I want to make. Republicans are lying every time I hear every single one of these, whether it's the Republican candidates for president or Republicans who are just voters who just hate Obama so much. Every time a Republican says anything to the effect of, the economy was bad when Obama came into office and then Obama made it worse, or we had a rough economy and then Obama came in and wrecked it, they are lying. Absolutely flat out lying. And it's not political spin. It's not bending the truth for the sake of political expediency. It is a flat out lie when they say that. The economy was losing jobs. Obama came in. The economy has been gaining jobs. Every week the economy is gaining jobs. By every possible indicator, the economy is improving. We were in a recession, now we're in a recovery.
Slowly.
This is, right, slowly. Which is why,
In fact, our major reason is the reason why unemployment is still at 8.5%, 9% is because we need to create 250,000 jobs a month, and we're not there yet.
right. Now, and that's why, it's one thing, if Republicans want to make the argument that Obama has not improved the economy enough, or that there are specific policies
That would
of
be
the
more
Obama administration
Yeah.
that are holding the economy back. I wouldn't necessarily agree or disagree with that. We can have that debate. We can have that argument. If you want to say the economy is not improving quickly enough under Obama, that's an argument that we can have. We can have that discussion. And that is something upon which I believe reasonable people can disagree.
Right.
But if you want to sit there and say, as I hear Rick Perry at one of the debates just making up these numbers, like, well, you know, under Obama, the economy has shed 800,000 jobs and we're losing all these jobs. It is a flat-out lie. No jobs have been shed under the Obama administration. We are consistently adding jobs. By every economic indicator, the economy is improving. We are in recovery. It's a slow recovery, but you know what? I hate to quote a Celine Dion song, or who did it, or maybe Amy Grant. It takes a little time to turn the Titanic around.
Well, worse
Baby,
than that,
baby,
you got
baby.
worse than
No,
that,
it's
you
not
gotta-
that one.
That's
It's a
not
different
Amy
one.
Grant,
But,
okay.
Worse than that, you got to realize that this recession is the greatest recession to the Depression.
Yes.
Which means it's going to take much longer for us to get back on top.
Yes,
The point
absolutely.
is, we have hit bottom.
Right.
We are slowly climbing, not at the rate that we want to.
Right.
But are the Republicans even helping? They're
No.
making sure that nothing gets passed, so that so
Right.
they can get in. And to me, that's not their job. We elect the president, not the Congress that says, we're going to make sure that this is a one-term president.
Right, that's what
That's
Mitch
not why I
McConnell,
sent them there. Why did you send him there?
Mitch McConnell said specifically that is our main goal, that is our purpose, to make sure that Obama is a one-term president.
Well, that pisses me
that
off.
Yeah,
a lot
sure.
of the candidates.
Yes.
And I think your biggest challenge, Matt, other than, well, you're going to find the reasonable people who believe that, yes, we're in recovery. It's a
Yes.
slow
Very slow.
recovery.
Yes.
But you're going to be hard-pressed to find any conservative to agree with you, even the
course.
slow part.
Right.
The word recovery will not be coming out of their mouth.
No,
At
of
least
course
not
not.
until after the election in November. Oh yeah, maybe we are back in a recovery because people reelected Barack Obama.
Well, I do believe
That's my
he'll win a
prediction,
second
by the
term.
way.
And you know what? The position that he's in, it's not as dire as it seems if you look at history. Both Reagan and Clinton were in similar positions
Yes.
near the end of their first term, where they had a tough recession that they inherited from a previous administration. They were working to turn it around. Finally, toward the end of their first term, when things looked bad, in both Reagan and Clinton's cases, the economy was moving in the right direction. It was still tough, but it was moving in the right direction. Voters saw that and reelected them. Obama's in the same position. The economy is moving in the right direction.
In fact, Matt, under the Clinton administration on his second term, he was so successful in turning on the economy that we actually ended up having, instead of a deficit,
Yeah, we had a surplus.
we had surplus.
Yeah.
10 billion, I think, which Bush spent the first year.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. As soon
But
as we
using
went into
his
Iraq. yeah.
fear mongering and his patriotism
Yes.
to get us into 2 wars and be able to cut taxes.
Yeah,
at
and then
the
you
same
got to
time.
realize under the Clinton administration, and even I believe, if I'm correct, even under the Reagan administration, didn't Reagan as president have a Democratic House or a Democratic Senate?
Oh yes, yes.
Now under the underneath the Clinton administration, both houses, Senate and House, were Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
And look at all the work they got done. Because then you had true moderates, and
Right.
they did what was best for the people,
Exactly.
not for the party. Today, it's the opposite. And I don't just blame the Republicans. I need to blame the Democrats just
Oh,
as well.
absolutely.
Because they do the same thing. When
Absolutely.
they're in power, they make sure the Republicans don't get there. And that's not how I think the common people want to see this government. That's
Right.
why the country is so split.
Absolutely.
Even amongst the parties. Look at last night.
Yeah.
The conservative, the true conservative to the moderates, 8 votes.
Mhm.
That's a split.
Yes. Absolutely.
Now let's not forget Ron Paul.
Yeah, that's true. Ron
Maybe
Paul is
third.
Ron
A
Paul is
strong
a
third.
Ron Paul is a major factor. He was a major factor in Iowa. He'll be a
And he
major
will be
factor in
in
New
New
Hampshire.
Yes, he will.
He'll never be the nominee. But,
Well, you know, it's funny. Somebody on CNN today said that Hippaloo, it's good that Rick Santorum and Ron Paul came in second and third. But you know what? They'll never get elected.
Right.
You know, I think that's not the media's job. It's like the Congress, not their
Well-
job. It's our job as voters. Let us be. People are not so stupid. They know how to vote.
right.
Well,
But if you're a political junkie like me, you enjoy turning on MSNBC and hearing people make their predictions. and-
yes. Who's right down the street, by the way?
Oh, are they? Yeah.
Yes.
MSNBC, NBC News, CBS.
Yeah.
They are right down the street from us.
Yeah.
Now, going
Close
back to
knit.
just one thing that you'd brush upon, which was the debt ceiling and John Boehner,
Mm-hmm.
having the conservative Tea Parties drag him down. I don't think he ever dug himself back up because here we were, end of December, looking at those payroll taxes that the Senate voted on,
Yes.
left it for the House.
Yeah.
They called the Senate back because we don't agree to this. And it was John Boehner who just kept saying, no, we're not going to agree to this, to the point where
Right.
Mitch McConnell said, it's okay. The Republicans are fine with the terms of this bill.
Yeah.
So he got up on his podium though.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I must be doing this because my party wants this. No, John, your party actually signed off on this bill.
Right.
It's
But
you know
about
what's so-
time that you do it too.
you know what I
That's a
think-
good point.
You know what I think is so stupid is that even today, the strict conservative congressmen that are there today in Congress are now saying that the speaker, he flunked. It's his mistake. They're finally
Yeah.
admitting that. What bothers me is many months ago, they're still saying it today. A lot of bills that were passed in the House, the Republican House, are either stopped at the president's desk or the Democratic Senate is now passing. But isn't this the shoe on the other side of the foot now?
What do you mean? How do you mean?
Well, now it's the Republican House that waited to the very end to pass that tax. They would
Right.
rather have given the tax cut to the 1%.
Oh, sure.
And it cost us $1,000 to $1,500 a year
Right.
to the average citizen.
Yeah. There's a lot of mythology to the way Republicans approach these things, and this idea, tax breaks for the rich don't work. There is no trickle down. It doesn't work.
They've proven that in the Bush administration.
Absolutely. If you go all the way back to Reagan, but by the way, Reagan, a big piece of Republican mythology is, Reagan is everyone's big conservative hero. And by the way, I think Reagan was a great president simply for the fact that he was able to
the Cold War.
to beat the Soviets in the Cold War. Because to me, that trumps absolutely everything. I grew up, having grown up in the 80s, I grew up worried about nuclear war. So to me, Reagan played it right. He played it smart in the Cold War, bankrupted the Soviet Union. So I think Reagan was a great president for managing to not destroy the world. But here's the thing. Conservatives love to talk about, we're Reaganites and we believe in Reaganomics and Reagan is our hero and we can't do anything Reagan wouldn't do and Reagan would never raise taxes and this and that. Reagan raised taxes 12 times. And he raised taxes on the very wealthy. He cut taxes very early in his administration in 81. This caused huge deficits. He raised taxes on those who could afford to have taxes raised on them in 83. There's this whole mythology about Reagan that isn't true. And Reagan was more, in some ways, more fiscally prudent than he's given. Yes, because he was not afraid to raise taxes when it was necessary. And a lot of what Obama says about how we need to raise taxes on those who can most afford it and take some of the burden off the poor and the middle class, these are things that Reagan also said.
Yes.
But Republicans are all wrapped up in this mythology about how the economy really works and, and I'm sorry, tax breaks for the rich, and that doesn't produce any jobs. It would have by now.
Yeah.
The rich don't pay their fair share as it is.
No.
These tax brackets are artificial when it gets to rich people because, even if you have a rich person who's in a 40% tax bracket, that's on earned income. That's not on capital gains. That's not on investment income. Your average rich person pays almost no taxes because their income is derived from investment income, where they might pay 4%, 8%. They're not paying it doesn't matter what tax bracket they're in. If they're not paying taxes on earned income, if they're not drawing a salary upon which they're paying taxes, but their only taxes are really they're just living off investment income, they're not contributing to the economy.
No, they're not. They were saying this morning on one of the major networks, I forget which one it was, that there's they finally realized now that numbers are in. There's $152 billion right now sitting in the Caribbean banks, the Bermuda banks, and it's not paying taxes. It's all the 1%. Now they claim there's $2 billion there to hire jobs, people, and that's why we should not cut the Bush taxes. So a year ago last December, they convinced the president that it was a good thing to do it one more time. He says, fine, we'll do it. We'll take that $2 billion and we'll hire. Well, guess what? Who have they hired? Where is this $2 billion?
Right, yeah.
And there's got to be legal ramifications.
Oh, it's
for that.
baloney.
Offshore accounts like that are not being taxed.
If you had that and they caught you, they put you away for life.
That's why, and mostly only middle to lower class families elect like flexible spending accounts. That's money that you put aside that's tax free for medical services and supplies. But there are so many restrictions on a flexible spending account because people used to use those as your tax shelter. They would put $10,000 aside, then they would go spend it somewhere and show a receipt for a doctor's office that was only like $20, but meanwhile they spent $2,000 on a lease, on a car.
Yeah.
But I got my receipt that shows you this was for medical, but where's the rest of it? So they've had to put all these restrictions. Why? Well, I know why, because there's no U.S. jurisdiction on these offshore accounts.
Let me ask you this question. For years it used to be that if you were a single person you file for your taxes, you end up paying more.
Mhm.
If you're married, you have a tax cut.
Right, there was an
Or if you
advantage.
have children, you have a tax cut. Now look at
Right.
it this way. To me, the 1% and the 9% is the same way. If you're the 1%, you're getting the tax break, and if you're the 99%, you're paying more. It's the same thing as being married or having kids. You know what? Some of these loopholes are not to the benefit of our country. It's creating part of that deficit.
Mhm.
Number one, we're not taxing everybody fairly. And number two, there's too much waste, and they can't find the waste. Oh my God, we know it's there.
Right.
We see it every day. But they can't even find $1 trillion between the Democrats and the Republicans.
Fraud, waste, and
That
abuse.
committee couldn't find $1 trillion. They found a
Well,
billion
it's,
something.
It's the fox guarding the hen house. You know these.
Or the Fox News kid.
Yeah, the Fox News guarding the hen house. I like that.
Well,
That's
see,
true.
that's why I don't blame just the Republicans. I blame both houses.
absolutely.
Both parties.
Oh,
because-
absolutely.
And both parties are the ones that are helping
Oh, for
the
sure.
middle class diminish.
That's
the middle
right.
class is not
That's
going to
right.
exist much longer. It's just going to be lower or
That's
upper.
right.
It's going to be the 1% and us.
You either get
Yeah.
rich or you get poor.
Yeah. There'll
And
be
the
no
richer pay less
mid-
taxes and
lower
the poor
middle.
pay more.
Yeah.
Kristen
Makes a
just
lot of sense.
Kristen just texted me and said you look mad.
Well,
I am mad.
This is Matt Connarton.
This is Matt Connarton Unleashed. I'm angry. I'm unleashing my anger. I'm very angry, man.
This is what he looks like when he does the radio show.
This is my angry face.
There's just now a camera pointed at him.
You see this face? It's angry. This is the face of anger. Yes, anger.
That's the face of anger right there.
Are you
RJ
a
Willett.
Riley fan?
An O'Reilly fan?
Yeah.
No.
We'll do it live.
No. And you know
How about
what?
Mayor? Who does
Bill
HBO?
Maher.
Bill Maher, I love
Bill
Bill
Maher.
Maher. O'Reilly infuriated me recently because you guys have all seen the video by now. Oh, you want to see me really mad? You guys have seen the video right now of what happened at UC Davis?
Yes.
With the
Yes.
pepper spray?
Yes.
I caught this on your
That was too much.
Matt
Yeah.
Connarton Unleashed.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So I see this clip of O'Reilly, and he had I think Megan McCulley was on with him, one of the Fox News blondes, and
what you call it.
and they were talking about and they were talking about how on the O'Reilly factor, talking about how basically trying to diminish. And sort of whitewash what the cops did at UC Davis with the pepper spray, and how it's no big deal because, after all, and if you haven't seen this clip, I swear to God, Bill O'Reilly says this. Well, you know, the pepper spray, I mean, it's pepper. It's basically a food stuff, right? It's a food item. Really? And they're just kind of like shrugging it off and laughing it off like the cops didn't do anything wrong, hosing these kids who are just like this. And they're
So
just
why
like,
are we wasting money on buying pepper if it's just a food thing?
yeah. Geez, why don't we just throw pepper on them then?
Watered
Yeah.
down. It's,
Yes. Oh yeah, he said that too. Yeah,
Watered down,
it's
yeah.
because he's trying to justify that because they weren't pepper spraying these kids; they were pepper hosing these kids.
Yes.
I mean, it was
Yes.
incredible. It was.
Someone went to the hospital.
Oh yeah.
It was a serious thing.
Yeah, and they're trying to make it sound on the O'Reilly factor like it's no big deal. It's just pepper. It's no big deal. It's not harmful. You can die from that.
yeah,
If that
exactly.
gets into your lungs, people have died.
That's right.
Yes.
It's such
People
a
have died from that.
It's such a big deal that the campus dean, or the one in charge, CEO, is that what they call it, dean? The president.
the
campus
chancellor.
chancellor
in her
came
case.
out the next day and said, we will pay for all their hospitalization.
Well-
they felt guilty all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, they should all. She's the one who ordered the cops to do it, supposedly. She should be gone. None of these people should still have jobs.
No.
The chancellor should be gone. These cops should be gone.
We
These,
were
these
just following
rent-a-cops.
orders.
Yeah, we were just following orders. Yeah, just like the Nazis.
Nothing ever goes wrong when people just follow orders.
Right. Yeah, just do what you're told, no matter how reprehensible it is. They should all be gone. None of these people should have jobs.
No. The first time I watched that video was during your show, and it made me sick to my stomach.
Yes. Infuriating. Absolutely infuriating.
That was overpowering. There was no need for it. They were very
No.
peaceful. There was no need for it. Well, it's the same thing as this law they passed in December, the House and the Senate. Now, I'm not sure if the president signed it yet, but he's threatened to sign it. If he does, if you're a good citizen and you have no criminal background and you're going to protest, and even though what
He
you
signed
say is true, he did.
He signed
even
it.
though you say what you say is true, if they don't like it, they will imprison you and they will decide when you get bailed out.
Mm-hmm.
That's the new America.
No due process.
Are we talking about the First Amendment?
The First Amendment right is being changed.
Well, it's the Fourth Amendment, really. They shredded
Yeah,
it
it's
in
the
the
Fourth Amendment.
process. Yeah, if you, for anyone who doesn't know, the National Defense Authorization Act you can, the military can, just like Guantanamo Bay, really,
Arrest Americans now.
they can arrest Americans and hold them indefinitely without due process, no lawyer.
Without
It's
proof.
like you're a war criminal if you're an American citizen. So there's no innocent until proven guilty in this case. You're just taken into custody and put somewhere. I don't know where.
Isn't that what the dictators do? They put you away for as long as they want.
Yeah, yep,
And
absolutely.
that's how they shut you up. You never go to court.
Absolutely.
So
You
that's what
can't prove
America does
yourself.
to its
Yes.
detainees as well.
Well, they're gonna
Terrorists
start, they're gonna start
detainees.
doing it to Americans now.
Yeah.
Right.
When is that going to be effective?
It's already Obama signed it.
But did they come? Does it happen? Is it
It's law.
retroactive?
Is
Oh,
it one of those
it's-
44,000 laws that went into effect in 2012?
I think so.
It's sad.
And the media is not focusing on it that much, which
There's an election going on. They're not going to
Yeah.
be focusing
right,
on that.
right.
So both parties have to blame on that one. They both voted for it.
Yeah, very few people dissented. Rand Paul, Ron Paul's son, who I don't like. I don't like Rand Paul, but you know what? I've got to give him some points. He's one of the people who stood up and said, this is wrong. I'm amazed at how, people argued for it that I didn't think would argue for it.
We know that the 4 congressional representatives of New Hampshire all voted for it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They're all guilty of treason as well. They're guilty of treason, just like in the case of the debt ceiling. That's why they all got to go. This country at election time needs to give a collective middle finger to our elected representatives in Congress. It has become so corrupt, as if it's not bad enough that it is a bought Congress, bought and paid for by the lobbyists and the special interest groups and the corporations. But now they're committing treason. This National Defense Act allows the U.S. military to operate militarily within U.S. borders, which is, according to Komi Pasatatis, if I'm saying that correctly, is unconstitutional. That is not supposed to happen, because that leads to very bad things. That leads to things like internment camps. That leads to things like, rounding people up. Some extreme right-wing conservatives like to talk about rounding people up when they talk about illegal immigrants. I'm very creeped out. I think anyone who knows anything about history should be creeped out and alarmed when they hear anyone in government talking about rounding people up.
Absolutely.
That doesn't lead to good things historically.
No.
Ask the Jews.
Ask 6 million Jews
Yeah,
killed.
rounding people up, not good. Ask anyone who had family who were rounded up during the Japanese internment fiasco after Pearl Harbor, where, okay, now all of a sudden any Japanese person is suspect. Japanese Americans put in internment camps. Yeah, rounding people up, not good. But now it's legal. Now we've codified it into law, and Obama signed it. Obama is guilty of treason, in my opinion. That is an act of treason against his country.
Is this enough to sway your vote towards conservative?
No, because they did it as well. They voted as well.
Well, based on yeah.
So you got to blame both parties because they both voted to get rid of that
But
constitutional right.
looking at the president himself, yes, it was both parties that signed it, both houses.
He should have stood firm.
Do you think that he should have stood up and vetoed this?
I think he should have, but he didn't.
And now that he
But is
hasn't,
that enough?
is this enough for
No, it's not.
us moderates, us independents,
I'll tell you why it's
to be
not.
swayed
It's
one
not
way or the
because
other?
if the
Because
Republicans,
quite honestly, I would pick anybody who's not affiliated with the party right now.
yeah.
To be
Oh,
honest,
there's no question.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
but
looking for.
because
I'm
the
feeling
two
that way to
parties have
happen.
the money,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You're right. And you got to realize that that both parties, the Democratic House, Senate, and the Republican House. So the Republicans and Democrats in both houses voted overwhelmingly for this. The president's job would have been, hey, this is where he should have
Right.
stood firm and say, no, we are not going to take away these people's rights.
Right.
But he didn't. Is it enough? No, it's not enough, because if you would have had just the Democrats in both houses overwhelmingly vote in favor and not the Republicans, then it would have been enough. But since both parties were just as strongly in favor of getting rid of our constitutional right, it's not enough.
Right.
It doesn't come up to a high enough. It's still treason, I think, but it's not
It
enough.
is treason, and it definitely gives fodder to. I mean, Glenn, you're kind of a conspiracy guy.
Not really. At some point, but very little.
Well, you've talked about the 43 people who really control.
Well, that's
the world.
because that exists. There's proof of that.
But is this? But something.
That's not a conspiracy when it exists.
I understand.
It's true.
But
I do admire your conviction with that too.
Well,
Because it's something that I'm not terribly familiar with,
Yeah.
and it does sound conspiracy-esque.
But that's where my independent
To
comes in.
think 43 people, that can't be true.
That's where my independent comes in. I make sure that my facts are right, and that's why in the last 18 months, as owning a newspaper, no one's been able to say, "We got him." You don't got me because my facts are. That's why they hate me so much. My
Well,
facts are right.
Well, the government's going to get you. They're going to put you in an internment camp.
They're
You're not
probably going to
careful.
try.
But does this? I mean, Obama signing this because there are people I have a book that my father gave me, which I haven't finished reading because it's really just right wing propaganda. But it's called The Manchurian Candidate, and it's about Obama and this
And
idea
not
that.
based on the film, The Manchurian Candidate. This is...
Oh, I'm sorry, The Manchurian President. That's
Oh, I was gonna
that's
say.
the name of the book. I apologize. I get that mixed up all the time. The Manchurian President, but it's the premise is that Obama was put there intentionally to forward the New World Order and whatnot, and that he's part of this whole cabal, along with the Bilderbergers and
Do you buy
the
that?
Bush family. Well, I'm asking you
I don't buy it. I'll tell
because
you
this
why.
is I don't buy it either. But I hear conspiracy people pointing to this and
Well,
saying, well, look at this though. How do you explain
It
this?
started way before Obama. The first time that a president of this country, of the United States, talked about one world order, it started with George Bush #1. Clinton carried it on, a Democrat. George Bush #2 carried it on, and now Obama. So you've had 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. In fact, it started with Ronald Reagan. It's his very last term they was talking about, because the vice president was, I believe, George Bush the first. He's vice
Yes,
president.
right.
And that's where it started. So it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. Both parties are relatively in favor, or at least reacting by voting that way, of the one world order. And people need to think about that.
Yes.
There are some bad shit coming around our country. It's going to ruin us if we don't watch who we elect. And that's why I keep maintaining today, let's make some history. Let's not elect a party, because they all have their own agendas, and it's not in our best interest. Let's
No.
elect a president who can think for him or herself. In this case, there are no more women, so himself. That's do what's best for our country. And you're right. Obama did not stick to his guns, and he did not do what was best in keeping the Constitution. He had that. You're so right, Chris. He had that opportunity,
Yeah,
and he flubbed it.
yeah.
But it's not enough for him to lose the election because,
And he's a
Everybody.
constitutional lawyer.
yeah, that's even makes it even worse.
Yes.
But it's not enough to make him lose his election because the other parties, both parties, did it as well.
Mm-hmm.
If it would have been just him, that would have been enough.
Yeah.
But when everybody does the same thing, you can't just blame one person when they're all doing it.
Right.
It's bad enough we have a Democrat majority in the Senate, Republican majority in the House, so the two of them don't get along as it is.
So that's
but
why
here they are,
nothing gets
both
done.
signing off on something.
Yeah.
But you know, guys, it's funny. They keep saying that at the end of the day, that we're all moderates, we're all friends. That's bullshit.
No, that's gone.
That's
I mean,
gone a long time ago.
They say that back during the Reagan administration,
Yes.
Reagan and Tip O'Neill would have a drink together at the end of the
Play
day.
cards and
Yep.
those days are gone.
Yeah. They certainly would appear to be. Although with Obama, someone Chris Matthews made this observation that I hadn't thought of. Yeah, it's good. The Chris Matthews
Can do it
laugh.
better.
I have heard you do that better.
No, I can't do it.
I can't do it either. That's better.
That's it.
That's better. Yes. That Obama doesn't. Is he friends with anybody? Because he doesn't. Unlike most politicians at that level, Obama doesn't seem to.
He irritates both parties.
Well, he doesn't seem to
Next
like
time.
politicians. He doesn't form bonds with anybody.
He has
You know?
been extremely camera shy lately too.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets
you
out there in
think so?
front when he needs to be, but he is not.
Not
Photo
according-
opportunities
not
are
according
not
to
on
the
his
GOP.
agenda
The
right
GOP
now.
says he's flying all over the country.
Well, they talk about him going on vacations and whatnot because.
What president does George Bush went on vacation?
Of
Several
course,
times.
you should. If you're, hey, you
They're
know what?
human beings.
If you're the leader of the free world, that's a stressful job. You might need a week off now and then.
Yeah.
I hate it when they do this, when either party does this petty stuff, picking on. I mean, they used to pick on Bush for
Plus,
it
it's
too.
called
you
a
know.
working vacation. Do you think they don't get work done in
The
there? They have
president,
to.
yeah, the president's on the
They have
job
to.
24 hours a day, no matter what.
Congressional vacation should be revoked if you have something like the payroll tax or the debt ceiling coming up on a vote where the country is at stake,
And we're going on vacation.
we, as your bosses, because we elected you, should have the right to take away your vacation.
Right.
You can only do that through a national referendum, and you need to have at least, I think it's 32 states it has to pass.
I forget how that works.
It's a majority, so we're 50
Yeah.
states, so what is it? Or it's two-thirds, is it?
I believe it would be a 2/3
Yeah.
majority, yeah. Well, we're coming up on 10 o'clock, so
Yeah,
yes, we are.
We'll start to wrap up. This has been Matt Connarton Unleashed, a television edition for the first time ever, so very cool. Glenn, thanks for
You're welcome.
thanks for this
I hope you
opportunity.
continue this.
Absolutely, and we'll be, there's more coming up on QCEnews.com, broadcasting until Monday, right?
Yes.
Here from the Brady Sullivan Building at 1000 Elm Street in downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. A lot of media in the area, because we got the primary coming up on Tuesday.
Let's revise tomorrow. We're gonna start at 9 o'clock instead of at 7.
Okay, so tomorrow there'll be more programming beginning at 9 a.m. all the way until 11 p.m. tomorrow night. Is that correct?
Yes, till 11 p.m.
Okay, here on QCEnews.com and of course the QCE News channel on IPMNation.com, which is probably where you're watching Unleashed right now. So Thursday 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Friday, when does Friday start?
7 a.m.
Oh, Friday starts at 7 a.m. until 11 p.m.
11, but don't not forget the also.
Well, let it large, gone global.
Yes, which is 8 to 11?
8
Is
to
that-
11.
I do love
Is that the
saying
plan?
that loud.
It is expanded
Yes.
1 extra
Okay.
hour, which will end our broadcast for that day, because
Okay.
it's gonna be candidate night.
Yes.
We're going to there are 44 candidates, they've all been invited. If they don't show up, that's to their own miscredibility, not mine.
Yes. Maybe it should be 45 and you should throw your hat into the ring, Glenn.
I don't think so.
President Willett. I'll think about it.
How about President Matt?
President Matt. I'll think about it. I don't have any money for a campaign.
But Chris does?
Maybe in 4 years.
I have a gift card to Walmart.
Oh,
that won't get you very
Oh,
far.
I used it up
no.
already.
That's true.
You can
plus,
use that in China.
plus, I probably wouldn't be able to get on the ballot in Virginia. Nobody else can.
That's
No.
something else. We didn't talk about that, and maybe next time.
I'll
But
get
you
you
know,
10,000 signatures.
babies, aren't they? That's been a law for years there. Now they're going to try to break the Constitution of Virginia.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know,
Go up.
only two Republican candidates got on the ballot in Virginia.
Does that mean that the people who could not afford $1,000 to be on the ballot in New Hampshire, that's discrimination? That's our law.
Right. Well, I think that in Virginia you have to get a certain number of signatures as
10,000.
well, and
If you can't get
Gingrich
10,000.
couldn't come up
from
with
the
it.
South.
Rick Perry is
Perry
suing
from the South.
is actually suing Virginia.
So is Gingrich. They're all joined. There's
Are they?
5 of them.
It's
So
bi-
is Buckman, but she's out now.
It's
So
bi-
why is she going to sue?
I know it's bizarre. It's a clown show. This is why Obama will win a second term.
Yes.
Even though he's guilty of treason.
They're giving it away.
Yeah.
They're not playing smart.
Absolutely.
They're not playing
Absolutely.
it smart.
They will not win. And then of course Saturday morning will be the pancake thing. We'll see if someone can land a pancake on my pointy head. And then I will.
Extra 10, but it's got to be a candidate.
It's got to be a candidate, and I will eat the pancake after I brush off any hair follicles that might be on it. I don't want to eat my own hair.
Of course not. And they'll give him an
I'll
extra
get-
10 points.
I'll get a hairball if I do that, and they'll get an extra 10 points.
Are you like a cat?
I am. I'm very much like a cat. That's why I'm so
A
furry.
fur ball.
I am myself a giant fur ball. So lots of things coming up. We're on the air every day until Monday, including Monday.
We end Monday at either 10 or 11,
Monday at 10 or 11,
depending on what's going on.
depending on what's going on.
Now, let's not forget that the election is next Tuesday before your next program.
Yes.
From 7 a.m. Excuse me, from 6 a.m. From 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. here in Manchester.
That's when the polls
All
are open.
12
All right.
wards.
So the polls are open early.
And in New Hampshire, you can register to vote the same day.
Yes, and I want to remind everyone, anyone who thinks that their vote doesn't count, think again. Remember the number 8. Only 8 votes separated Mitt Romney and Rick Santorum in Iowa, in the Iowa caucus. 8 votes.
And
So if you think your vote doesn't count, think about that.
That's
Remember
right.
that number.
And people should not forget, because in the last primary and general election here in the city of Manchester, if you waited the last day and said you wanted an absentee ballot, you didn't get it.
Okay, yeah.
So if you want to vote absentee because you have to, call the city hall now.
Right, absolutely. Do not delay.
Your vote counts.
Your vote counts.
Yes, it does.
I'll make sure of that
8 vote counts.
Yes, you are a selectman
in Ward 3.
in Ward 3. A
You
Ward
will-
3 selectman.
You will no longer find a Ward 9 ballot in Ward 3. When that happened in 2010, I couldn't believe it. It's impossible.
I couldn't believe it either. Anyway, Glenn, thank you very much
You're welcome.
for doing this with me tonight. Chris Rose, of course.
Matt,
Thank you very much
always
for
a
being
pleasure.
here. And I'll talk at you all. I'll have a podcast, the Express edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed, also up at some point this weekend, the 30-minute podcast that I do. 30 minutes or less, delivery always free. This has been our live edition, and from QCNews.com, temporary headquarters here in downtown Manchester. Thanks, everybody, and talk at you again soon.
Save it.